I think I enjoyed the Istanbul Straits, so far the best. It's a pretty sight, nice, interesting $1 million holiday homes of people on either side, and it's a great route.
And do you often encounter dolphins chasing you on the ship?
Pretty much all the time, I would say, so there are these pressure areas that are generated due to the ship's movement through the water right at the forward part.
Okay.
So you'll see a bunch of them always there. It's probably like a jacuzzi or something for them.
Offspin Media Friends proudly presents A Day in Your Life by Anant Krishnan, an Offspin original.
Hi, my name is Anant, and welcome to this podcast where this is all about you, a day in your life. In the 6th episode of this series, I speak with a Merchant Navy captain. The captain has a request to not reveal his name. So for everyone's convenience, I'm going to be continuing calling him captain. Let's hear what the captain has to say about a day in his life. Hi captain, could you give me a little description about yourself, where you're born and raised?
Hi, Anant. So I was born up in Mumbai, and as you are aware, I am working in the Merchant Navy, and I sail as a master, or it's sometimes referred to as skipper or captain. Either one of them, the same thing. I spend half of my time on land and the other half at sea. So basically, I'm on land for 3 months and at 3 months at sea. I enjoy travel a lot. So that's why I thought I'll have something related to travel as my work. And yeah, so far I'm pretty happy with the way things are going.
Awesome. Could you tell me a little about your education and how did you happen to get into the Merchant Navy?
Okay. Travel has always been on my mind, and this was one of the places where I felt I could work and travel at the same time. So I joined the Merchant Navy after my junior college. I started my training after junior college. It began with pre-sea training, which is about 3 months. It's a residential course, and thereafter it's a 3-year onboard ship training.
Okay.
They call it the cadetship. Basically, you're an apprentice. After that training, I had to attend college for a few months, and then competency exams and orals.
Okay.
And then finally, after all of this, you get declared as an officer.
Okay.
And you start off at the rank of third officer. And then after required sea time, basically sailing and experience, you get promoted to second officer, then from second officer, chief officer, and finally master or captain. So that has been the course so far.
Awesome. Do you remember what was your first cadet trip like? How long was it?
Oh, it was long, yeah. It was 9 months, and
Oh man.
yeah, almost felt like, hey, have I ever going to return back? So yeah, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of study, and it is pretty hectic. And unfortunately, I was on one of those most hectic vessels. Where we were calling port every second day.
Oh.
My longest sailing then was 1.5 day or 2 days.
Okay.
That was the longest sailing. So very hectic, I would say. And it was. Let's say it was good and bad to have such a ship as your first ship, because you have a very easy first ship, then all your other ships become a problem. You
Yeah.
have something like this, you never have a problem after that. So the second one was my condition.
Yeah, because I think you're honed extremely well in that 9 months of your first trip.
Absolutely. After that, you can handle pretty much anything, So it was really bad. It was really bad, that first ship. But after that, I never had a problem. So that is a good part. So
Okay.
yeah, that first 9 months was a struggle. So it was basically 9 months I did initially
Mm-hmm.
during that cadetship, the training period. So 3 ships of 9 months each. That's how it was.
Oh man, that's a long time. And this is with no Saturday and Sunday, and of course, no holidays.
Nothing, nothing. Every day felt the same.
Oh man.
One worse than the other, you know.
Hmm. And clearly there was no internet back then, and you had to. How did you, perhaps get in touch with your family?
So there was no internet. Even calling was not so easy. It was quite expensive. If I would equate it in today's day, calling from sea, while you're sailing I mean, at sea, not in port, where you have um, network like mobile network.
Right.
Um, I would say a minute was about five, $600. Yeah,
Oof.
a minute of voice at that time.
Okay.
So it was quite expensive. The other form of communication would be through old school letters.
Okay.
And the beauty about it was it took ages to reach. So it would so happen then that certain letters for you would arrive after you have left the ship.
Okay.
So I would receive letters which were for the person I redeemed.
Okay.
That was it then. But now it's much better, yeah. So I mean, better. It's way, way better. You got internet and communication is no problem. It's much better.
Yeah, just to update the listener, me and the captain are having this conversation while he's on board on a ship, somewhere in South America.
Absolutely. Yes, that is what it is today. So
Amazing.
it's quite good now.
Yeah. What is your day like usually from the time you wake up and, until the day ends? Could you tell me a little about this?
I can break it down to, two parts. Let's say a sea day
Mm-hmm.
and a port day. Okay, because it would be quite different. So I'll talk about the sea day first.
Okay.
Sea day is actually quite in my control. I can control the sea day. I wake up at 6. I do a bit of workout. Then breakfast is from 7 to 8.
Mm-hmm.
And I hit work by 8 in the morning. Would work till 5, breaking for lunch at 12, between 12 and 1. And dinner is from 6 to 7 p.m. And I finally crash at 10.
Okay.
So that would be my day. Now, what I would do when I start is I would get an update from all departments on board. You have 3 departments: the deck department, the engine room, and the galley. Galley is basically your catering and your kitchen.
Okay.
So we'll get an update from there, see how things are planned, and if any changes need to be made there, or if there are any issues, those need to be dealt with. Then I start the more important thing, which would be communicating with the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the outside world would include the owners, that is the ship owners, the people who own the ship,
Mm-hmm.
the charterers, they charter the vessel, the technical managers, they manage the vessel, and finally the crewing managers, they manage the crew.
Okay.
So the owners, they want to know what is happening. They need to know details. It's their ship, obviously, and they're entitled to. So they need to be assured that everything is going as per plan, and any issues need to be reported. And so that is what happens with the owners. The charterers, I would say these are very important people because that is where the money comes from.
Mm-hmm.
They fix the cargo basically. So, and how this is done, suppose the ship is in a particular region,
Mm-hmm.
they will look around there for cargo which would be suitable for the vessel, and they'll also check like what would be the freight involved for this. I mean, whether it's a profitable thing. Once such a cargo has been identified, this information is passed to the vessel. You get to know you're going to load from port A, and you have to discharge that cargo in port B. So this is how the voyage gets fixed. So this job is done by the charterers. So the charterers need to know how is the cargo on board, if everything is fine.
Mm.
They need to know when are you reaching port. You need to give them a lot of updates related to the cargo, related to your time of arrival and all. So that kind of communication happens with the charterers. So then you have the technical managers. They look into the maintenance of the vessel. Now the vessel has to be maintained, right? Like your car and bike.
Yeah.
It goes to the service center from time to time, and there's like a maintenance done on it and all. Same way, the ship also every 5 years goes to a dry dock, to get major maintenance done, which is below water level, which we can't do at sea. Rest of the maintenance can be done at sea.
Okay.
So these technical managers, they ensure that the ship is run safely. They provide you with whatever you need. You need spare parts, you need food. I mean, pretty much anything you need is managed by the technical managers.
Okay.
So they ensure that you have valid licenses and certificates to trade. These need to be renewed from time to time. To renew them, there are certain inspections which need to be done. All this is handled by the technical managers.
Okay.
And then you have the crew managers. These people organize the crew changes. Now you can't have the people on board sailing forever. They need to get relieved from time to time.
Yeah.
Whenever their contract ends. So the planning of that, getting the next person ready, organized, happens is done by the crew managers. So they also need to be aware of, who has to be relieved when and where, and, that kind of communication. So basically, I'm communicating with the outside world. We get information, we share information.
Okay.
This is how I would say my sea day is.
Okay.
Port day. A port day is something which is out of my control.
Yeah.
Because I can't control timings here. When the port calls the ship in, the vessel has to go in, and for loading, discharging, for fueling or bunkering, whatever, you go when the port is ready, not when the ship is ready. Ship is ready all the time, actually.
Okay.
I mean, we could be called at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., anytime, so that is when there are no timings. Everything works as per port timings. Sometimes you could land up being awake for almost 24 hours, without any rest and all. But then that's the way it is. That's the way the port is. Things have to be done then. They have to be done.
Got it.
That's why I said it's out of my control. That's more or less my day.
Now that you know me, clearly a guy like me can't walk in the ship.
A lot of people would find it difficult to handle those kind of times, the night things.
Yeah.
They are really tricky, but I hate it. I don't hate anything more than that, especially when we have night operations and all, You do whatever you want during the day, but hey, please spare the night.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's that's what it is.
So how is it to be a captain and to perhaps head a team of 30 odd people or maybe more to sail? How do you prepare for it, and what are the challenges that you would face?
So basically, preparing for a voyage. Now that is very interesting because you have to have a proper plan in place. Firstly, you get all the information, as to where the ship is headed, which port to which port. So you prepare a passage plan for the entire thing. Okay, it's going to take me so many days to go from place A to place B. This is the amount of fuel I would need. Obviously, the ship has minimum number of people required to run it from place A to place B. So there are certain checks which need to be in place before the ship can depart from port. All these plans have to be in place. You need to have certain amount of food and certain amount of spares and things like that before you can set on the voyage. And that is the kind of preparation you would have made before you head out. You better be well prepared because you'll get stranded at sea if you're if you run out. Imagine you run out of fuel in the middle of the ocean.
Disaster.
Absolute disaster. Yeah. So you can't you can't afford to be in such a situation. So everything has to be well planned for.
Yeah.
And then handling people on board, it's quite challenging, because people on board are away from home for very long duration. So
Yeah.
that does put some strain on your mind. Then there are different nationalities you're working with, different cultures. So that can be challenging as well, because you need to understand the culture, you need to understand where everyone is coming from,
Right.
especially when you're on a sailing on a ship with a multinational crew. And mostly nowadays, you do find multinational crew on board vessels. I normally sail with around like 6, 7 different nationalities.
Oh.
But then over a period of time, you tend to understand. You tend to understand those nationalities, and you prepare accordingly. Yeah. Another challenging thing is weather. Yeah. You prepare as much as you can.
Yeah.
But then you have to face weather. Yeah. You can't. You can avoid it that sometimes, but there are some times when you have to face the fury.
Yeah.
So, for example, you have to cross the North Atlantic Ocean in winter.
Oh.
This can be a nightmare. The ship will be rolling and pitching all through the voyage. Let's say a New York to Europe would take you about 9 days, 10 days, depending on how the weather is. You will be rolling and pitching all through that voyage, because the North Atlantic in winter is messed up. It is very bad. Have you seen those Charlie Chaplin films? He's having, he takes one spoon from the bowl, and that bowl rolls over to the next person, and that person is also. I don't know if you would remember seeing this, but then let me tell you, it's much worse on board. You might not get that bowl back. It will probably be off the table or something.
Okay.
So you have to. You can't do much in weather. That's one of the major challenges I feel you face at sea. And sleeping also can be tough. Yeah, in such weather, you're constantly tossing all over the place. So you don't rest. Basically, you think you're sleeping, you're not sleeping. You are awake.
Yeah.
And imagine doing 10 to 15 days, sometimes 20 days. If you're doing Pacific, it could be 30 days.
Oh.
You might not get it that bad all through the voyage, but I would say 10 days, 10 to 15 days of such weather is quite possible. Yeah, is very much possible actually. So you're not rested. Imagine when you're not rested, how you would be the next day, and what can you achieve the next day. So it is challenging. Then you have some missionary failure or something, something goes wrong with the missionary. Yeah, you have spare parts, a certain amount of spare parts on board, but then something goes beyond that. God help you. Yeah. Again, that's a major problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now add some missionary failure with bad weather together,
Oh.
and then you have the ideal recipe for disaster. This is, pretty bad.
Yeah, I can't imagine how scary that would be.
Then you have various emergencies to deal with. Yeah. For example, a man overboard or a fire and all.
Yeah.
This is serious stuff. Now think of a fire ashore. What will you do? You'll run. You have place to run. You don't have that option at sea. Ashore, you can call for a fire brigade and things like that, to assist.
Yeah.
To deal with the fire, you have dial a number.
Correct. Here you have
dial the
to
fire
attend to
brigade.
the situation yourself.
You are the fire brigade, yes. So, yeah. But then drills and some training and all help you prepare for all these situations. So,
Right.
these could be some of the challenges that you can face. Yeah. You can encounter all these things.
I was saying, with respect to weather, your description that you just gave, perhaps your company might, reroute you depending on the weather forecast, that it might, kind of predict with the kind of cargo that you're carrying and the route that you might take. If you analyze or predict bad weather, it might not tell you to take that route. Does that happen?
Yes, you reroute. Does help a little bit, but I just gave you an example of the North Atlantic. It's pretty much totally messed up, So
Yeah. All throughout the year?
the only thing then is no, winter months.
Okay.
Um, so you can avoid, but there are times when I mean, the only way to avoid it is not call that port only. Yeah? You'll have to head to some other port only. You have to, instead of Europe, I mean, say Northern Europe, you might need to go to some port in the Mediterranean or something, which is not possible. Obviously, you eventually have to land up. So there is a good bit of weather that you will face.
Right.
Maybe not as bad by the rerouting and all, but even the not as bad is quite bad.
Hmm.
Yeah, depending on the size of the ship. Now, if I'm on a major, huge, 3.5 lakh or up to 5 lakh ton VLCC, these big, huge oil carriers,
Yeah.
no problem. But if you're on a smaller, 50,000 deadweight and smaller ship, you'll be tossed all over the place, even in very, not so bad weather.
Oh,
So
okay.
even the rerouting is not going to be easy on you. It's going to take a toll. So that is weather.
And plus, as the saying goes, sometimes the quickest way is to ride through the storm.
I mean, after so many years, I would not dare to do that. But I don't mind taking that extra time and rerouting and all, and get slightly better weather than go through it. It depends, yeah. Yeah, maybe yeah. If it is just one day of manageable weather, understood. Rather than having 3 days of torture.
Yeah, I got it.
So in some cases it might work, but in some cases it might be very bad, and you don't want to be in such a bad situation where imagine there's a structural damage for the ship in that weather.
Yeah.
So that can be very serious. So you don't want to take those kind of chances.
Yeah.
So you probably prefer taking not so bad weather. Yes, I know it is going to be uncomfortable for a little longer time, but then at the same time, that that kind of weather is not going to cause so much of damage,
Hmm.
to the vessel, or I mean, the risk is less.
I get
So
it.
it's
I get it.
that way.
Captain, how many times would you have sailed till now, and which is perhaps the most amazing route that comes to your mind if I ask you right away now?
So I've been sailing for about 20 odd years now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been interesting. I think I enjoyed the Istanbul Straits, so far the best. It's got, it's got nice, it's a nice view basically.
Mm-hmm.
You pass it's a narrow channel,
Okay.
about half a mile.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the width of the channel, and it's a pretty sight, nice, interesting. $1 million holiday homes of people on either side, and it's a great route.
Wow.
There's another great route, which is the Medellin Straits, that's south of Chile.
Okay.
That's also pretty neat. It's got ice mountains on either side, and something what you would have probably seen in Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings and all, that kind of a scenery.
Wow.
So yeah, for a ship which is constantly at sea,
Mm-hmm.
definitely looks good. Yeah, these are things which you would enjoy seeing.
And do you often encounter dolphins chasing you on the ship?
Pretty much all the time, I would say. So there are these pressure areas that are generated due to the ship's movement through the water, right at the forward part.
Okay.
So you'll see a bunch of them always. Always there. It's probably like a jacuzzi or something for them. So a lot of time. Yeah. Then you'll find 20, 30 of them trying to cross ahead of you. Like just ahead. I don't know what. Probably a sport for them, but that also happens quite often. They would notice the ship from a distance, and this is what they would do. Yeah, plenty dolphins. Yeah, so nice. It's interesting.
Have you ever managed to spot whales?
Yes, whales also, they come to the surface to breathe. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's the time you spot them, and then they take a dive back in. So quite a number of times we've spotted whales, and they would normally be in pairs.
Right.
You will not see a single whale. It'll always be in pair. Yeah, it's nice. It's these are the things you look forward to and you enjoy seeing at sea. When there's not, I mean, when there's only water, this is all what you can see.
Coming back to your ship, have you or a team member faced any health situation on a sailing trip? If so, how did you handle that?
Yes, there have been number of health situations, but all manageable. Nothing really very critical.
Okay.
At least I have been lucky not to face anything like that.
Hmm.
If it's something normal, then and if you understand what it is and you can administer required medicines for it, you have a medicine chest on board, which is required by international law to
Okay.
be. I mean, you have a certain scale of medicines that you need to be carrying on board
Mm-hmm.
for doing. If you're doing a voyage more than a certain number of days, you need to have this kind of stock on board.
Okay.
So that covers most of the illnesses, that you can expect.
Okay.
If you don't have a solution to the problem, then you can get shore assistance. You
Okay.
have something called CIRM. This is they're based out of Rome, and
Okay.
they provide 24 hours assistance. You give them a problem, you will have to provide some basic information about the patient, vitals and the details that is needed. They have a checklist. You give that to them, and they will provide you with, a diagnosis of whatever the ailment or injury or whatever it is.
Got it.
They'll also know what kind of medicines you have on board. You'll have to give them a list, and they'll give you advice. If it is serious, they will be told to land the person in the next port,
Okay.
whichever. Or if it is very serious, then the ship has to be diverted,
Got it.
to the nearest port to, or probably get the person evacuated by helicopter or something. So
Okay.
these would be the options that you would need to look into, if it's very serious case. Luckily, I have not had any serious case. It's all been manageable.
Okay.
And yeah, even if the person had to go, go to see a doctor or something, I was not very far from port, so I've been lucky that way. So, and I thank my stars for it.
I pray it always be this way.
Yes.
Coming to the next question, let's talk about food in the ship. How does your food department, prepare for journeys ahead? And how do they keep a count of food in stock? Could you describe food in general on board?
See, normally the number of people sailing on board is quite constant. It doesn't vary. You have a fixed number of people sailing, so you know the number of people that are on board. Next, you need to know is the different kinds of nationalities, because the cuisine will be a little different. So I would classify it as three main cuisines that you would find on board. One would be Indian, Filipino, and European.
Okay.
These three cuisines will cover most of the nationalities that I normally sail with. Food according to these type of cuisines would have to be prepared. So that is the kind of stock list you would make for the voyage,
Mm-hmm.
or before you would set out. This is what you would need to get on board.
Mm-hmm.
So frozen food like meats, fish, and other dry stuff, you pick up for normally 3 months.
Okay.
Whereas the problem is always with fresh vegetables and fruits. This basically has it won't last you more than 20-25 days max.
Got it.
So that is where you normally tend to have a problem. So you can stock up, but how much can you stock up? You can stock up only for that many days, because beyond that, it won't survive. So 3 months with the frozen food, you're pretty stocked up. So in case it's a very long voyage, like you're doing a cross Pacific or something, you would want to have some frozen vegetables and tinned fruit options, which will help once your fresh runs out, till you hit the next port where you can top up again. So that is more or less how the food thing works.
Hmm.
So the chef has to be pretty good with his ordering,
Yeah.
because you don't want to have your omelette without an egg, or your coriander chutney without any coriander.
Yeah.
You can't afford to miss out. So you got to be good with your ordering, and you can't miss any item, because every item is important.
Absolutely.
And no chance is taken with food. You can sail without cargo, but you don't want to sail without food.
Yeah, like you said, long voyages always play a mind game with the crew on board, and you ever don't want to be stuck in a situation without food.
And this is one of the things which can help you lighten them up, but so
Yeah,
you don't want to take any chance with this. Yes.
correct. The next question is a little personal question. Since I know you really like motorcycles and road travel, what importance does travel in general hold in your life?
I have the advantage of a pure vacation. In my 3 months of vacation, I do not attend to any work calls or emails. I see a lot of my friends who work on land. They do so even in their holidays. So basically, I
Wow.
have the liberty of going on a road trip for the entire 3 months of my vacation. So I have done a lot of interesting rides. A few to mention would be Bombay to Ladakh.
Oh
This
man.
took about 30 days till I got back home. Then I did Bombay, Bangalore, and the Northeast,
Superb.
Meghalaya in detail actually. I've done a lot of solo rides other than this as well. They're all pretty interesting. I prefer going to remote locations, less crowded ones. They're more appealing. My work also involves travel, which is a very important thing in my life. So I travel while I work, and then I travel while I'm on vacation. That's been my life so far. About travel, I just have one thing to say: cover the earth before it covers you. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job at it.
Wow, very well said. What advice would you have for people who would want to be a sailor?
Firstly, be sure of what you're getting into. Uh, you don't want to waste 3 to 4 years of your life training to come to sea, only to realize that you can't survive the environment. This is the most important thing I would want to tell everyone. Then these days, everything is pretty commercialized, and so is shipping. It used to be much more peaceful earlier, shipping, where port turnaround time was much longer, and no one really gave a damn about time. Ships were in port for days and weeks, probably even months, together, and probably nothing happened on a Saturday and a Sunday, in many ports. No cargo was worked on those days.
Mm.
So it was very peaceful. You could do your own thing. You could do whatever you wanted to in port those days. Security was not very great. So now, a lot of places, security is a major issue. Some places, you can't go out certain ports, because of security requirements and restrictions and all that, in certain countries.
Yeah.
So it has gotten a little difficult. So port stays are short now, so you won't have too much time when you're visiting a port, and you want to go sightseeing and all that. That's your time has definitely shortened, But safety and all has improved a lot. Ships are much safer. Earlier they were not that way. So lesser accidents, and the industry is now moving to zero accidents. They
Mm.
want to go to zero. So that is an advantage. There are the advantages, there are the disadvantages. So ultimately, it's a personal call, I would say.
Yeah. That's a very sincere advice from you, Captain. Captain, would you have any fun, memorable incident that you might have experienced? Something that's unforgettable.
Mm, yes. So I joined a ship once as I was chief officer then. That ship was new for me, and the people on board also had not sailed with earlier.
Okay.
So the captain had scheduled a meeting with the senior officers on one Sunday morning,
Okay.
and ship was at sea.
Okay.
He told me to give him a wake up call, an hour prior. So I did call him at the scheduled time, and when no one answered, I thought probably he's already awake, probably in the shower or must have left the cabin or something. So yeah, say 15 minutes prior the meeting, I'd just gone on the bridge, for a cup of coffee. And then while having a chat with the officer on watch, I asked him, like, had you seen the captain? Is he around? And that guy said, no, he hadn't seen him this morning. But then I told him, hey, but I already called him. Like, it's been 45 minutes since I called him. So, and then he just asked, like, okay, how did you call him? And like, I phoned him. I gave him a ring in his cabin. No. Like, how long the phone ring? I said like 6 to 10 times, pretty normal. That's and then he told me, no, you have to make sure the phone rings for 5 minutes. I'm like, what? 5 minutes? I think a dead person can wake up in 5 minutes, of ringing of these loud phones. And then I'm like, I'd only heard of heavy sleepers till then. Yeah, I had never encountered anyone like this. And then I also thought, hey, if we have an emergency or something, how do we wake up the captain, man? This is crazy. When I joined my first ship, I remember on the first day when I got a call, I missed it. Yeah, I would consider myself a heavy sleeper then, when I never heard alarms and never any doorbell or anything, before coming to sea. But when I came to sea, even on the first day, I didn't hear anything. But then after that, the way I was scolded for it and all, and the repercussions of it, with that, I never missed that call again, ever in my life.
Okay.
So that is how I was, and like I really wondered how exactly
Did a captain
someone
manage to do
doesn't
this?
wake up, and, yeah, and how do you get hold of this captain when it is an emergency and all, So, but yeah, that was quite interesting incident. Which I
You might
can
have to
remember,
perhaps place a
which,
secondary horn in
did
his
happen.
cabin for an emergency. That's the closest to waking up in a jiffy, like.
Correct. They have to redesign that ship, wherever he is, or he needs to carry this thing, wherever he's going, whichever ship he's going on, and a buzzer just outside the cabin. So, yeah, that is pretty crazy.
Wow, that was a really fun one. Thank you for this conversation, Captain. It was a really wonderful conversation with you.
Hey, thanks a lot, Anant, for having me here. It was a great opportunity, and I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this. And I wish you a safe journey. And I hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much, and all the best to you too.
You just heard A Day in Your Life, an Offspin original. Created and produced by Anant Krishnan. This show is live and available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Music, Saavn, Gaana, Wink, and every other place we thought hosted podcasts. Give the Offspin team a like, maybe a subscribe on their Instagram page, and be in touch. We love hearing from you. Keep listening to content from Offspin Media friends, and keep glistening.
The opinions expressed in this show are personal to the guests and the host and do not necessarily represent the opinions of the producer or the platform. This show does not intend to defame and denigrate any individual or organization in India or outside. The show is created for entertainment purposes only. It does not encourage smoking, drinking, or any kind of substance use. It may contain the use of harsh language that may be considered offensive, rude, or profane by the listeners. It may also contain incidents that mention or describe mental health issues, casteism, suicide, and violence. Listeners are advised to use